I just wanted to invite you, all of you, and give you a warm heart. And today is August 22nd. Sermon title is Uninvited Guest. Let's pray together. Dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful Sabbath morning. We invite your presence here. Lord, help us and speak to us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. For our season again, so it is called LNU fire, the complex fire. It was a very rare experience for me, like in the middle of August, right? Thunderstorm and rain, very rare in California. And we believe that because of the lightning and it catches on fire, and we have a very scorching hot weather. The air is so dark, not very fresh, and here and there. Pray for our school, PUC, and those who had to evacuate their homes. And it seems like it's a trauma year after year from, I believe, 2017, the top fire, and 2018 and 2019, and this year is no exception. And we are dealing with threefold some disaster threats. And coronavirus, something like a 1918, the Spanish flu, we are going through a similar symptom. And because of the coronavirus, the economy is not that good. And it reminds me of 1929, the Great Depression, and also the George Floyd, the racial issues, the conflict, Black Lives Matter, and reminds me of 1960s, the civil rights movement. So please pray for our church and our nation, especially this year is in 2020, the election year in November. So may our God help us to choose the right president. Let's open our Bible, Matthew 26, verse 13. It says, I tell you the truth, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. So in the Bible, we encounter various women, and we are visiting this story again, very famous story. And look at this, very special story, because Jesus said, this is the only his comment on this woman, that this woman should be remembered. I tell you the truth, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. Wow, a mysterious woman. We are going to meet this mysterious woman, and it begins with verse 6. While Jesus was in Bethany in the home of a man known as Simon the leper, it is called woman, no name mentioned here, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, which she poured on his head as he was reclining at the table. So in their custom, when they are eating, dining together and recline So reclining himself, and this woman came to him and poured the expensive perfume. So, what is this woman? A mysterious woman. To understand the whole story correctly, we have to think about the background of this story. So, this verse 20, the chapter 26, it begins with chapter 24, actually. So, two chapters, going back to two chapters. And it says, chapter 24, verse 1, Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. So the temple, do you see all these things? He asked. I'll tell you the truth. Not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down. So when our disciples walked by and wanted to give some attention to Jesus regarding this temple, and Jesus said like this, one stone above, not one stone here will be left on another stone. Total collapse, demolish. And verse 3, he says, as Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Tell us, they say, when will this happen? And when will it be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? So Jesus was asked by these disciples when will this be happen? And give me some sign when you are coming back, like this. So based upon this question, and Jesus answered to these questions like this. So in chapter 24, verse 6, talks about the nation against nation. War, rumors of wars. Like, you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. In verse 6, you'll hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. So this is not the end. The rumors after rumors and war after rumors like this. In verse 8, all these things are beginning of birth pains. This is just a beginning, but not this end. And when does it end? In verse 14, it says, gospel of the kingdom, the end will come. When the gospel of the kingdom spread around the world, throughout the world, and the end will come like this. And this is a sign he gave to the disciples. The fig tree twigs gets tender and leaves come out, and it's near summer like this, just like that. In the following chapter 25, we are going to encounter three famous parables, like parable of 10 virgins, and parable of the talents, and parable of the sheep and the goat, like this. And after these parables, and now we are on chapter 26, like this. So when Jesus had finished saying all these things, he said to the disciples. So disciple asked, When will this be? When will this end? When will this happen like this? And he said rumors after rumors and war after war, and but this is not the end. And the totally the whole, the gospel of the kingdom will be spread out throughout the world, and it'll be the end. And he gave the sign of a fig tree, and he said this. And now the time is Passover again in verse 2. And as you know, the Passover is 2 days away. The Son of Man will be handed over to be crucified. So Jesus here again, over and over again, he's saying that, okay, this is the way that I'm going to die. Myself will be handed over and will be crucified. And now, that time, the chief priests and elders and assembled in the palace of the high priest, and whose name was Caiaphas, and they plotted to arrest Jesus in some sly way and kill him. And they said, verse 5, but not during the feast, they said, or there may be a riot among the people like this. Now Jesus and disciples entered the preparation of, a part of the preparation of his death. And verse 6 says, while Jesus was in Bethany in the home of a man known as Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, which she poured on his head as he was reclining at the table like this. So this woman, who is this woman? Mysterious woman. Who is she? Why does this woman do this? And what is the result of this? Something very strange, her action like this. Well, I remember that a couple weeks ago, I believe August 4th, the world was terrified because the bomb of Beirut, Lebanon. And it is said the explosion killed more than 130 people and at least 5,000 others injured. And we don't know why and how, but until we know is that there was a fire ignited more than 2,700 tons of ammonium nitrate. It's an explosive chemical used for fertilizers, right? That's the only thing we know so far. And is it true accident like this, or somebody purposely attacked the city of Beirut? We don't know yet. But as many of us see this video clip, and it was something like a mushroom cloud. It was created, and something like a nuclear bomb. Very powerful. And there was a poor woman. She was preparing a wedding. And another mysterious woman. Who is she? Well, the wedding day has to be one of the most beautiful days in her life. And nice shot here and there. And all of a sudden, there's a big explosion. And everything was swept away. It's a horrible, horrible accident. So I thought initially, who is this woman? We don't know. But when this happened, At the same time, the lady was taking some wedding shots, and all of a sudden, boom, and she was blown away. But fortunately, the bride and the groom, they were not severely hurt. And later I noticed that this woman, her name is Azra Seblani, Isra Seblani. And I believe she is a U.S. citizen, happens to be in Beirut for the preparation of a wedding. So she is called the Bride of Beirut. She's a doctor, a medical doctor. So Dr. Isra Seblani. She was waiting for the bridegroom to be's visa for 3 years, and she couldn't wait that long anymore. So she flew to Beirut to get married. And she said, "Oh, am I going to die? And I'm going to be buried by the building and my husband." And one thing she really wanted to do was to hold hands with her parents. But fortunately, she survived. And as a doctor, they wear gown, right? The doctor's gown, the white gown, and wedding dress happens to be the white. So she's doing the same thing, basically the same thing. She began to treat people here and there, bleeding, bloody people as a doctor. Well, once we know the identity of this woman, and the story becomes more real, like this. So, like this, the story, this woman, the mysterious woman, if we can know her identity, story will be with us, with reality, the real story, like this. Sometimes when Ellen White wrote several, many her books, and back then there are some names is not mentioned correctly, like Mr. P, like this. We don't know who that P is, like this. But if we read the name, the real name, and the story, the whole story around the story, about the story, will come to us realistically true. And this is the same thing. That's why we are going to some research with this woman. Well, this story, no wonder Jesus said, this story should be told, and we should remember her. So all gospel, the 4 gospels, and mentioned this story: Luke 7 and John chapter 11 and 12, and Matthew 26, our basic main text, along with Mark 14th chapter. Very similar, those two. It's a kind of almost twin. But when you read those stories, we can find some slight difference between the Gospels. For example, the place, John chapter 11 and chapter 12, the place is Bethany, Nazareth's house. But in Matthew, it's Bethany, the Simon leper's house. And Luke simply says Simon, a Pharisee, like this. And who is this woman? Only John has the name, the Bethany Mary. Either the Matthew and Luke, just a woman. It does not give us a specific name. And Matthew, this woman poured this perfume on Jesus' head, but Luke and John's version is only pour on the foot, Jesus' feet. In response of the people around him, rebuked from Simon, the host, in Luke, the Gospel of John has Judas Iscariot kicks in and blamed the woman's unreasonable, he thought unreasonable the expensive perfume. And he's saying that it would be better when she could sell this perfume and for the poor people. And Matthew's version is the disciples blamed her action like this. Okay, again, John chapter 12 and verse 3, it says, "Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume." The word here, the expensive perfume, the original text, it can be also translated the myrrh. One of the items that the burial ceremony took place. So, Bible mentioned that her action is referring to the burial ceremony for Jesus himself. And traditionally, because of, I believe, a Catholic tradition, and this lady, this mysterious woman, Catholic thought that this is a Mary Magdalene. So, according to their arguments, their suggestions, their opinion, the Mary Magdalene is the same person, Mary Bethany. And Christians naturally accept the concept through a Catholic. And also it is one of the hymn book. It says about the Mary Magdalene who poured the expensive perfume. It's in the hymnal, their hymnal. I was told that the pastor, whose name is Edwin Pond Parker, very energetic pastor from 1836 and 1920. After after the delivery of his sermon, sometimes he ends up with her own composed music, like a closing hymn, and he wrote the lyrics and the tune, and it says Mary Magdalene. Well, I don't think we have this hymnal in our Adventist hymnal. Probably the title of this song is Master, No Offering, Costly and Sweet. And lyric goes like this: "May we, like Magdalene, lay at thy feet, yet may love's incense rise, sweeter than sacrifice, dear Lord, to thee." But I'm just talking about the Catholic tradition. It is true that in the Bible, there is no one single reference that Mary Bethany is the same person as Mary Magdalene. We don't know. Bible did not specifically called that Mary Bethany is Mary Magdalene. That's true, we don't know that. But the thing is that Matthew 26 and verse 12 Jesus said this, when she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. It's a very interesting comment. Don't bother her because she is doing such a good thing, because she prepared my burial, my funeral. And the poor people will be always with you. That's true. If she is Mary Magdalene, very interesting coincidence right here, because do you know who came to the tomb of Jesus after crucifixion, after the first day after the Sabbath, right? It was? Yes, Mary Magdalene. So John chapter 20 and verse 1, early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. She prepared and wanted to treat Jesus' burial ceremony, burial preparation. And it was Mary Magdalene. Jesus said, okay, Mary Bethany, this is for my burial, right? And Mary Magdalene, she came to Jesus' tomb the first day of this. And the Desire of Ages, page 560, it says, in that she hath poured this ointment on my body, Jesus said, she did it for my burial. As the alabaster box was broken and filled the whole house with its fragrance, so Christ was to die. His body was to be broken. So alabaster box is broken and Jesus died and his body is broken. And next sentence. But he was to rise from the tomb, and the fragrance of his life was to fill the earth. Wow, I like this. I like this reading, because when Mary Bethany poured the perfume, the fragrance of perfume will be spread out the whole room, right? And now, when Jesus resurrected, his fragrance of life, fragrance of his life will be filled the whole earth like this. Wow, that's very interesting. In another Bible text, I strongly believe that Mary Bethany is the Mary Magdalene. It's because in the Bible, the scene of cross, Jesus' cross, there is no exception that Mary Magdalene, her name was mentioned throughout this Bible. There's one exception, the Gospel of Luke, and just Luke 23:49, it says only the woman. But Matthew, Mark, and John, there's no exception. Mary Magdalene is always there. Matthew 27, verse 56, among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joses, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. So there is a Mary Magdalene. And Mark 50 and verse 40, Mark 15 and verse 40, some women were watching from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary's mother of James the younger and the Joses, and Salome. And also John 19:25. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. Very interesting comments, because the story of Nazareth and Martha and Mary of Bethany. That close relationship, how come she couldn't come to Jesus' crucifixion, right? So when I read this Mary Magdalene, and could it be Mary Magdalene is Mary Bethany? That was my conclusion. Well, I can say that, but still, from the Bible, we have no direct reference that those two ladies are the same. But again, the Desire of Ages, very interesting comments from Ellen White. It says, Mary had been looked upon as a great sinner, but Christ knew the circumstances that had shaped her life. He might have extinguished every spark of hope in her soul, but he did not. It was he who had lifted her from despair and ruin. 7 times she had heard his rebuke of the demons that controlled her heart and mind. 7 times. Is that interesting? Because this is a very familiar text. Luke 8:2, it says, among them were Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 demons. So 7 times and 7 demons. And could it be Mary Magdalene is Mary Bethany like this? Okay, she had heard his strong cries to the Father in her behalf. She knew how offensive is sin to his unsullied purity and his strength he had overcome like this. Why Jesus asks us to remember her? And her story has to be told when we remember Jesus' sacrifice and his life. Because I noticed that, remember Matthew 24, 3 parables. Through these parables, Mary's life reflected on these parables. Is that interesting? When I prepared this sermon, I found very interesting coincidence, making friends for God, this quarter's Sabbath school lesson study. In August 20th, Thursday, and Mark Finley, the author, mentioned like this. Very interesting. He said, the parable of the 10 virgins emphasizes the importance of a genuine, authentic, spirit-filled life. Just like Mary, who poured the perfume on Jesus' feet. And it reminds me of the spirit-filled life, Holy Spirit, like she did. And she knew that who Christ was. And she just wanted to pursue to Christ no matter what. And the parable of the talents, and Mark Finley says, the parable of the 10 talents underlines the importance of faithfully using the gifts that God has given to each one of us. See? Like this. When you read the parable of the talents, Mary, she lives like this because she consumed and she spent everything she had for Christ. The very expensive the perfume, and pour the perfume on his feet. Likewise, we have to use our talents given by our Holy Father, and everybody has a mission, and it has to be fulfilled in Christ, just Mary did. And lastly, the parable of the sheep and goats. The parable of the sheep and goats revealed that genuine Christianity truly ministers to the needs of those God brings into our lives every day. Wow. It's a parable between the sheep and goats. You know the difference between two, right? It's a endless ministry for others. That's a parable, just like Jesus did and Mary did. Mary knew that life has to be filled with the Holy Spirit, and he spent everything that God has given to her, and continuously she did a ministry resembling Jesus' ministry. That's why Jesus urged us to remember her, and remember what she did. Remember Matthew 26:13. I tell you the truth, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. Well, we just wanted to meet these people. These kinds of people who poured her heart to Jesus. Likewise, we have to pour our hearts to the needies in our world. And this is the mission that every one of us has to fulfill, to follow Jesus. I hope this message, you can get this message and continuously pray for our church, our school, and our nation. God bless you all.